All right. Welcome to the January 29th County Council meeting. First, we will have an invocation, and Mike Elam will lead us in that, and he will also lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hey.
Everybody, please rise. Take your hats off, please.
Let's pray. Father, we come before you tonight, and we just pause and ask for your wisdom. We ask for your wisdom in these kind of decisions because we want to make sure that we're taking in consideration all those who are here. You give us the opportunity to come together, and we thank you for that, and we praise you for the things that you're going to do. We lift this up in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Joe Cronin. Councilmember Joe Brazel.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Dave Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Terry Hollander.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Klinghammer. Councilmember John White.
Here. Okay. We don't have any public presentations.
No, we do
tonight,
not.
okay. Conditional use permit,
Is he speaking into
Bill
the microphone?
4540.
He is.
Turn up the sound.
There hasn't been a meeting on that yet, so that's tabled. So we'll, unless anybody has any comments on that at this time, we'll move on to public comments. Public comments have up to 6 speakers on each topic, and we'll limit those to 3 minutes. So who do we have first?
We have Lisa Payne Nager.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Payne Nager. I live in Lake St. Louis along the stretch of Highway N in O'Fallon, Lake St. Louis, and Wentzville. And I'm here to inform you that the residents along Highway N are not at all happy with the way the situation is being handled there. We're not at all happy with the idea of spending $1.5 million more for a study for a situation that we all know is going to end up in construction, which is badly needed along that stretch of road. It's very dangerous. My house actually backs up to Highway N, and there are ambulances and fire trucks and police cars dealing with accidents there almost on a weekly basis. It's a very fast-growing area, as you know, because you issue building permits along that stretch of road constantly. It's growing like crazy. It's probably the fastest growing area in St. Charles County at the moment, and the infrastructure there does not have the capability of handling it. We know that the road needs attention. We've known that the road needs attention for a very long time. We would like you to stop issuing building permits and take this stretch of road seriously. People's lives may depend on it, and taxpayer money can be better spent addressing the needs of that road without expensive studies. We know that there have been other proposals and other things looked at previously. We also know you spent a great deal of money just 1 or 2 summers ago to add shoulders to the road, which is now going to have to be torn up in the next couple of years when you decide to widen the road. And on top of all of this, we don't want you to spend $1.5 million to load up ammunition to come at us for a tax increase to expand that road. We're not pleased with that idea either, so you'll probably be hearing from more of us in the future. I think Joe's probably heard from a few people up to this point. We'd like you to take all those things into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments?
We have
on,
Arnie Dinoff.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Council, Arnie A.C. Dinoff, public advocate and resident. I couldn't agree with Mrs. Nager wholeheartedly. $1.5 million is a waste of our taxpayer dollars. Those should go to the crux of the problem and to fix the road issues and safety measures. It does not take a rocket scientist or a civil engineer or a county highway commissioner to figure out that we have to put in money to correct the deficiencies of that roadway. So it is a waste of taxpayer dollars. On tonight's agenda, the proposed following bills. I would ask that the county council table these bills. Many of the bills have proposed substitute bills, which according to the county ordinance and our charter, substantially put changes which do not allow the residents to weigh in and to know the same information that you have. State statute and county charter require public hearings, and you have no public hearings on the following bills. Then I ask you to table. Bill number 4561 with proposed bill 4561, proposed bill 4562 with proposed bill 4562, bill number 4563, bill number 4564 with proposed bill 4564, bill 4565, bill 4566 with proposed bill 4566, bill number 4567 with proposed bill 4567, and bill number 4568 with proposed bill 4568. There's a lot of secrets here. Last Wednesday, this county council had a subcommittee meeting which met in executive session with Mr. Hazelwood and Mr. Dorman, the county councilors. It'd be nice if you made a report and divulged what those discussions and information was rather than hiding behind closed doors. Mr. County Executive, I'd get your red pen out and start the veto process. Your staff has been very clear that there's deficiencies with these bills, and the community development, planning director, and the building code enforcement officers have some really problems with this. The performance and guarantee bonds are here to protect taxpayers and subdivision residents from deficiencies and defaulting builders or homeowners. We need requirements for the protection of residents and to ensure that developers and builders do not cut corners, substantially undercutting the investment of the property owner. These following ordinances shall not be to protect developers, but their sole purpose is to ensure residents are protected fully. This is our investment. We expect you to protect us and make sure that builders and developers don't cut corners and aren't given special deals. So I ask for those reasons that you table those following bills. At the last meeting, I erroneously stated that the filing for county government-wide office was Tuesday, February 13th. That was an error on my part. The first day of filing is actually Tuesday, February 27th at 8 o'clock for county offices, including 4 county council seats. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Rob Hussey.
Good evening. My name is Robert Hussey. I'm a resident of Wentzville. I'm also here in my representative capacity as an alderman for the city of Wentzville. First, I want to take a moment to thank the county council and county staff for all their much needed support and infrastructure in our area. I know as an elected official, a lot of times we get criticism, but tonight I want to just say thank you for all that you do. I'm here to talk tonight in regards to bill number 4557, the Highway In Study. I know many of you on a first name basis and could easily just picked up and called you guys on my cell phone, but I wanted to personally ask for your support of this. I know this is not, I don't see this as a cost. I see this as an investment. This project, if we're going to get federal dollars, from what I understand, this study needs to happen. This is not a project that the state can do by itself, the cities can't do by themselves, or the county can't do by themselves. So we need this study in order to get federal dollars. This stretch of road, it scares me. I live in the Golf Club of Wentzville. So if I go out the back of my neighborhood, I drive from Pennyroyal to the 364 intersection. I know there's tight lanes, I know there's increased congestion, and I know there's high speeds. It's a dangerous road, and in fact, it can be a deadly road. I have 2 children of driving age. This is something that keeps me up at night, and I'm sure a lot of parents are kind of feel the same way as well. My job as an elected official, I feel, is to protect the residents And I feel that when this project gets done, it'll be safer infrastructure for the residents in that part of county. I don't want to be in a situation where I would say, I wish that mother was still alive. That girl, she had so much left in front of her. Those 5 kids, their father is no longer around. That pains me to even think about it. So again, I humbly ask the county council for your full support of this bill to get the process rolling for the improved infrastructure on Highway N. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.
Scott Bueller.
Good evening. My name is Scott Bueller. I'm here on Bill 4555, which is Silverman Residential LLC's request for a rezoning. They are seeking to rezone their 37.74 acre tract from agriculture to RR, single-family residential with a 3-acre minimum. The current plan for this project is to have 9 home sites. 3 of those sites would be 5 acres large. The remaining 6 would be slightly over 3 acres. The reason I came this evening is because at the last meeting, it's my understanding that Mr. Brazel expressed some opposition to this project, and I just wanted to give a few facts that I thought may help in explaining what the developer's purpose is with this piece of land. The current plans would involve homes ranging from the minimum of 2,600 square feet for a ranch-style home to 4,500 for a 2-story home. Those will be put into the restrictions if the rezoning is granted when the preliminary plan is presented before the council. These homes would start probably at around the 650 to 700,000 in terms of the sale price for the homes once they're constructed. The DNR regulations are currently met, meaning that there's no additional DNR regulations required, that they additional testing, things of that nature. Now, the Planning and Zoning Commission heard the plan and approved it by a 10-0 vote. There's other 3-acre developments in the area within about 1.5 to 2 miles. You have 4 subdivisions that have been approved previously. The crossings at Lauderdale, Tuscany Meadows, Crown Point, and then the adjacent subdivision is Old Colony Farms, and it also has 3-acre tracts. So this particular development would be a slightly higher number of homes. You would have slightly less. You would have about 1 home for every 4 acres, as opposed, and the minimum would be 3 acres. So in terms of project size and density, it's our belief that it'll be a good development for the area. You have a lot of other subdivisions that are similar, and this one will actually be a little bit step up in terms of the cost of homes. So we're asking for approval this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. When we get to that item, we may ask you to come back up.
Thank you.
Okay?
And the last speaker is Thomas Grivey.
Good evening, Council. And I'm curious about this whole Silverman rezoning thing. There hasn't been a lot of new developments in the southwestern portion of the county. Most of the developments that the previous speaker was talking about are developments that were happening back in the 90s. So at this stage of the game, there hasn't really been any 3-acre lots in the southwestern portion of the county. We've got the 320 acres that is directly south of this. It adjoins this property. Yeah, we had talked about maybe somewhere down the road developing it. We're content with doing 5-acre lots. We don't see the need to have 3-acre lots. We don't want to bust it up that tight. But if the council sets precedent to allow that in that portion of the county, then that may be an avenue that we go as well. Not what we're wanting to do. We want to see the preservation stay at 5 acres, but that's kind of whatever happens is what happens. That's all I got. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
That's it.
With no other speakers, we'll close public comment. And we'll move to the consent agenda. Are there
Oral report.
Oh. Does the county executive have a?
Just a few things, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'm sure all of you understand that that Highway N is a state road. It's under the jurisdiction of the Highway Department. We have been trying to draw their attention to the need to do something on Highway N, John, for what, 10 years? How many years ago was it when the person down East West Gateway said it was too far out? That was 5 or 6 years ago. We finally convinced people at East West Gateway that Wentzville is growing as fast as it is, and it's not far out, and something needs to be done. Now, MoDOT still needs to come up with the money, but as you know, the city of Wentzville and the county have been working with MoDOT, Highway 61 project, Phase 3 of Page, and we've been trying to help MoDOT get some of its roads in order. But ultimately, people who are unhappy with those roads out there need to let their state representatives know as well. And what you're doing is basically what we can do right now, and that is give them some money to start doing the design and the planning. 20 years ago, the council did that on the Daniel Boone Bridge. The Daniel Boone Bridge was going nowhere. This council went ahead and gave MoDOT money to do the planning, and of course, last year or 2 years ago now, I guess, it opened. So this is what we can do right now, but the money ultimately is going to have to come from MoDOT, and we'll continue to work and try to convince them that Wentzville is no longer way out there. It's growing fast. It needs these roads, and everything that's been said about the safety issues is true. We're aware of it, trying to make MoDOT as concerned about it as we are. One other thing, I think Jeff Smith has some good news. I'll let him, I'll yield the remainder of my time to him.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of council, I'll try to make this as quick as I can, but I want to give you some background information on kind of what we're talking about. So as you know, the Department of Emergency Communications is the county-run dispatch center for fire and EMS throughout the county, and of course we do dispatching for county police law enforcement. There are approximately 21,000 dispatch centers in the world and 5,700 or so here in the United States. We have 7 of them here in St. Charles County. Last year, 2017, all of the PSAPs in our county answered 125,000 911 calls. That's 344 roughly a day. Our 2 PSAPs answered just over 29,000 apiece, so the law enforcement about 80 a day, fire and EMS also about 80 a day. When you dial 911, they're going to ask you a couple of things. Where are you calling from? Because if we know where you're calling from, we can send help. Then we're going to ask you what your callback number is, and then globally around the world, it changes from that point on. We ask, what is your emergency? Tell me exactly what happened. Beyond that, call taking can go a bunch of different ways. We have opted to use a structured call taking. So the dispatchers have basically a computerized script. They're going to ask you questions based on what you answer is going to get us to what's called a final determinant. We've used this structured call taking on our fire and EMS dispatching for the last 15 years or so, and we just started using it for the law enforcement side this past December. We use a product from Priority Dispatch, and there are about 2,500 agencies worldwide that use one version of this product or another, police, fire, or EMS. 2,300 of those are here in the United States, and about 200 of them are international agencies. Why do we use structured call taking rather than just let the dispatcher kind of do it based on their experience? One, we want to make sure we're consistent. We want to make sure that no matter what time of day, what day of the week, what's going on when you call, you're going to get the same level of service, same quality of service that the person that called you before and the person that's going to call you after. We have a doctor that we keep, I won't say on retainer, he's not. It's in cooperation with the ambulance district who provides medical control for us. So as part of this structured call taking, we're allowed to provide what we call pre-arrival and post-dispatch instructions. So on a regular basis, our folks are helping people give CPR over the phone. They're helping deliver babies over the phone. They're helping control bleeding over the phone, or if someone's having a heart attack, do what we call the aspirin protocol. So those types of things. So again, a lot of folks say early on, well, you do this because it limits liability. I think that's a kind of a bonus, that it probably limits our liability. Agencies that do this with Priority Dispatch can seek accreditation for their use of the protocols through the International Academies of Emergency Dispatch. Part of the process, once you meet all the criteria, that's called 20 points of accreditation. There are 20 documented things that basically you have to go through and show that you do in fact meet some of these standards. Currently in the world, there are 181 agencies that are accredited for their use of the EMS protocols. There are 33 accredited for the use of the fire protocols, 12 for their use of the police protocols, and there are only 10 in the world that are accredited what's known as Tri-ACE, or Accredited Center of Excellence, for the use of all three. In March of 2015, we hired Thomas Smith. Tom, stand up, please. Thomas. He is one of our quality assurance and training officers. And one of the first things that I asked Thomas to do was to kind of restart our EMS, EMD protocol use. We hadn't done a great job. We were using the protocols. We hadn't done a great job to make sure that we were using them according to the way they were designed. So in 2016, Thomas led our department in a retraining process, and we started upgrading our software, made sure we were using the latest versions, et cetera. And in 2017, we actually began the process to be accredited for our use of the EMD protocols. In December of last year, thinking that we had all of our ducks in a row, Thomas submitted the package. He spent roughly a month working with the academy, answering questions, making sure that we had all the document in place. We went through a site visit, and all of that to tell you that as of last Thursday, we were notified that the St. Charles County Department of Emergency Communications has been notified that we have become the world's 252nd agency to be accredited for our use of the emergency dispatch protocols. Our work is not going to stop there. I've already started talking to Thomas. We want to do this for the fire. We want to do it for the law enforcement. That number that I gave you, that the agencies that are Tri-ACE, which was 10 or 12, I want to see that we up that by one more. So, any questions? Thomas will answer them.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, now we're on the consent agenda. So are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move to accept.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes.
Is that the consent agenda?
On to bills for final passage. Bill 4555.
Bill number 4555, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District as per application RZ 1714.
Any comments?
Yeah, I just make some comments. I'm opposed to this bill, and the reason is, I explained to Mr. Bauer on the phone, we have not passed any 3-acre subdivisions down in that portion of the county in over 20 years. In the southwest portion, 3-acre subdivisions, it's mostly 5 and up, or 10, or whatever. He's referring to the ones up by D and Double D, Crown Point and Lauderdale. Lauderdale was a family farm that divided into 6 lots. Typically, the ordinance that we have gives latitude to farmers and so forth to give their kids 3 acres, and that's what the intended use is. If you guys remember, we had a subdivision come before us close to New Malley, and we had a bunch of people in here complaining about that 3-acre subdivision, and they worked it all out where he made it 5 acres as the Siebert tract. And so the idea is his lot may not be that big. It's 36 acres, 9 lots or something like that, and only 3 or so are going to be 3 acres. But the point is the neighbor has 300-something acres, and there's other people in that area that have large lots. And I think we have to be careful to, in that portion of the county, the reason why we did that is because of the hilliness of it and the rocky area for septic tanks and so forth, and the wine district. So I am opposed to having a 3-acre subdivision in that portion of the county, and we've had a lot of people speak out. We've had a lot of letters opposed to it, and so I won't be supporting this.
Does anybody else have any comments?
Well, I'd just like to point out, it seems to me like, the owners tried to, do the best they could. There's, out of the lots, there are 5-acre lots, right? But there are two, and then there are another 3 or 4 that are over 3 acres, but still 3 acres. And they also, obviously the planning and zoning looked at this and took the same things under consideration and voted 10-0, to approve. It just seems to me if somebody's going to be putting in $700,000 homes, the fact that they're on a 3.5 acre lot or a 5-acre lot doesn't seem to me like it makes that big a difference, with that, cost of a home. So we're looking at really a nice reticular area is my point.
I'm just curious, what's the big difference between 5 acres and 3 acres in that lot, in that area? Like if it's
2 acres.
Thanks, sir. And now for my next question, Captain Obvious. I know, I served that up. Thanks for slamming that. Like, I don't understand, like a couple of these lots are going to be 5 acres. Some of them, like Terry's pointing out, they're going to be 3+. Like, why the pushback?
Well, if it was just this gentleman and that was it, it really would make no difference, right? But if you start accumulatively adding large tracts to 5 acres or 3 acres, it's doubling the amount of cars, we got windy roads, no shoulders, hilly. And when we did this years ago, I remember Wayne Anthony wanted it to be more than 5 acres. We were getting pushed back from that. And so we're just trying to manage the expectations of the people who want to live in a rural community. And we want to also preserve the wine district. And this is getting down, Old Colony Road is contiguous with Highway F, which is the Boone Valley, which is our park down there. And I explained all this to Mr. Bauer. It's my perspective. I realize there's 7 of us, but I think it's good planning to keep that area rural, is what I think.
But how does $600,000 plus homes hurt the wine district?
The size of the house doesn't matter. It's the amount of people who are coming out there and the amount of development. It's the development. So his subdivision may be grand and great, but it's the next one and the next one and the next one, and that's my concern. It's the master plan is 5 acres, and I think that there has become a point where we have to start sticking to it unless there's a hardship or something where it's absolutely needed. But I'm just not comfortable just granting these 3-acre subdivisions in that part of the county. When you get up north, like up by Cronin or north by D and Double D, it's not as rocky, it's not as hilly, the soils are better, and that would be my perspective on it.
Yeah, I understand your concern. This comes back to the old thing that I really dislike, is the old slippery slope idea. I know that, down the road, there are going to be other places that are going to come before us, but they're still going to have to come before us, and they're still going to have to get the approval. And rather than a 36-acre plot, which this is, which is pretty small compared to somebody that would come in with a 120-acre plot asking for 3-acre lots, I think that might be a different story, because you are talking about a lot more density with obviously 120 acres rather than the 30. So that's just my point. Down the road, each one of these subdivisions are still going to have to come before us with the same argument. Okay.
I agree. I agree with that, but I think, Keith, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the master plan talks about the topography and the rock and the soils, I believe is what it says in the master plan, and why it's 5 acres, or Mike can answer this, or Robert. Is Robert out there? And you were around. Were you around when we did this, or was this before your time? And I'm thinking the reason why your question is not bad, and I don't have. If it were just this one, it's not really a big deal. But the problem is if we just, what about the next one that's next to it, the 200 or 300 acres that he has? Then how are we going to legally tell that guy? Because we haven't done any of these in this portion, 3-acre subdivision in the southwest portion in a while. Okay, how are we going to tell that guy he can't do it, but tell the guy next to him that he can do it? And that's my problem.
Yeah, again, we would have to explain that we take each one of these on an individual basis. Each proposition that becomes before us is an individual proposal.
That's just,
Yeah.
that's just the kind of the,
Did you have a question for Robert?
I was going to ask him, but were you around when we did this? It was Wayne, Anthony, when we went to the 5 acres, and it mostly was the septic and just the way of development in the wine district. Do you remember, were you here? I don't
No, I
remember.
wasn't here at that time. I came here in late 2013, just after the last master plan was adopted. Now, this particular property is included in the master plan for the, let's see, 1 to 3 units per acre. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the exact number. And then south of here is where the master plan calls for agricultural land uses. But this particular tract, the master plan recommends for rural residential. for
So
this
is that
tract.
why planning and zoning approved it?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
in part. It was because of the master plan recommendation, and also the fact that there's a residential subdivision with 3-acre lots just to the north of this. But in terms of where do you draw the line, I think it's probably based on part of the master plan where it shows the differentiation between the rural residential and the agricultural.
The 3-acre subdivision was put in back in the 90s, though, wasn't it?
That could be, yeah.
Yeah. That's it. That's just, I don't know, you know, it's one of those things, Terry, it's kind of a, you know.
Yeah, I don't know what the soil characteristics are there, but I know there's areas down, especially along those ridges and stuff, that it doesn't do well for soil absorption of private sewage disposal systems because of the shallow rock. The sewage just hits the rock and flows till it comes up somewhere else. So I know that was a big reason for changing from the 3 to the 5. I don't know about the specific area of what the soil characteristics are there, but. Any other comments? Seeing none?
An ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to RR Single Family Residential District as per application RZ 17-14. Councilmember Brazel.
No.
Councilmember Elam.
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond.
No.
Councilmember Hollander.
Yes.
Councilmember White.
No.
Fails.
So that bill does not pass.
It fails.
Okay. Moving on to Bill 4556.
Bill number 4556, an ordinance establishing new traffic regulations and establishing penalties for violations thereof.
Any comments?
Is there a substitute on this one? Which one is this, Dave?
No, there's not a substitute.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Please call the roll.
An ordinance establishing new traffic regulations and establishing penalties for violations thereof. Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
That bill passes. Moving on to 4557.
Bill number 4557, an ordinance approving execution of cost apportionment agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission, MoDOT, for an environmental study of Route N connecting to the existing Route 364 Environmental Impact Statement job number J6S3342.
Any comments?
Do you, John, do you want to give a kind of a brief summary on what we talked about on the phone? You sent a pretty good email out. And some of the questions that we're receiving is, why are we spending this money? Why didn't we spend this kind of money on other projects? And you answered them all well, but I think everyone else needs to know that. Are you? I'm sorry. You.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's
Amanda's
okay.
here for that.
I know.
She's our traffic guru.
So yeah, this is a NEPA study. It's a required federal document for federal funding. Unfortunately, as the county executive alluded to, MoDOT is fiscally constrained. They are not spending money on studies of this like right now. This is an arterial corridor. It's not a high priority for MoDOT. It's not in their long-range plan. So in order to get this project and the construction needed out there that everybody's talking about, we need to get this study done so we can get that work in the long-range plan, and then we can hopefully get federal funding for those projects.
Okay, for those who are saying the $1.5 million that we're spending is a waste of money, if we did not spend that money, if we did nothing, tell me what that looks like.
If we did nothing, I have to piecemeal projects. I don't know how much we can do without doing this study under MoDOT. We have to get their permission for every road project we do out of there. So it would probably just be little bitty.
So it's a long-range plan where it's like a 5-year master plan, so to speak, where you're planning easements, you're planning intersections, you're planning.
So the key is this is a plan out to 2045, and we want to have a long-term plan instead of just putting these Band-Aid fixes on as we go. We want to have a plan for the whole corridor so we can lock in the right-of-way. We can try to maintain the corridor as we want it to be in the future, as opposed to having to go back and buy right away from people and buy things that are already built out and fix the problem as we kind of have been with little Band-Aids.
So it's required to do to get the project off and launched, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think this will motivate MoDOT to maybe increase their timetable for the project?
I believe it will. I think they're going to see a lot more issues out there than they came in really understanding kind of what's going on out there. And so I think that it will give them an eye-opening of, how rapidly it's growing and how much needs to be done quickly.
I mean, I agree that with some of the comments that it's a complete waste of money. Government always spends money on studying and doing this and doing that. When you know what the problem is, you know what you got to do to fix it. But unfortunately, the way the government is, they suck the taxpayers dry. But on this particular issue, it's just like what Steve said. On the bridge, we did the same thing. Didn't we, Steve, on the Chesterfield, St. Charles? We funded the study, and if we didn't do that, we still wouldn't have a new bridge. And so it's like the first ones to do the initiative, the first ones to get things rolling are the county that gets the money.
And this will look at the safety, the traffic, and kind of come up with the best solution for the long term, how the corridor is going to be in the long term for the growth numbers that we're projecting, and make sure that it's as safe, in a well-flowing corridor, as opposed to having congestion issues come up in the future that, we didn't plan for. So it kind of looks at the overall environmental and impacts.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead and call the bill.
An ordinance approving execution of cost apportionment agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission, MoDOT, for an environmental study of Route N connecting to the existing Route 364 environmental impact statement job number J6S3342. Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
That bill passes. Moving on to 4558.
Bill number 4558, an ordinance amending section 250.500 ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO relating to county park regulations.
We have any questions or comments on this bill? Hearing none.
An ordinance amending section 250.500 ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO relating to county park regulations. Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes. That bill passes. Moving on to 4559.
Bill number 4559, an ordinance to name the park land located between Kisker Road and Pittman Hill Road Veterans Tribute Park based on a recommendation made by the Kisker and Pittman Hill Roads Park Committee.
Any questions or comments on this?
I would bring up the fact that in our last meeting, it was mentioned by one of our speakers that those who were killed in action were not termed as veterans. So we put that, Mr. Cronin and I were both like, really? I'd never heard that before. So we put that question out to the VA, and the VA came back and said All honorably discharged service members are veterans, and those who were killed in service are deemed honorably served. So upon their time of death, they are named as honorably discharged. So they do qualify as veterans. So the VA says that those killed in action are veterans. So therefore, this name does fit all those who have served and those who were killed in action.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I spoke with an individual who told me that he was involved in Veterans Affairs. Sounded like he knew what he was talking about. He told me 120 days. When you're in the service, after 120 days, you are technically a veteran. I mean, you become a veteran before you actually are discharged now. In either case, that answers the question that was raised in the last meeting.
It does. I'm in favor of this, and I appreciate the work that the committee did to come up with this name. And I think it's something that we're looking at that honors all those who serve. So I'm in favor of this name.
No other comments? Let's call the bill.
An ordinance to name the park land located between Kisker Road and Pittman Hill Road Veterans Tribute Park based on a recommendation made by the Kisker and Pittman Hill Roads Park Committee. Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Bill passes. Moving on to Bill 4560.
Bill number 4560, an ordinance amending Chapter 121 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO relating to the St. Charles County Housing Assistance Program.
Any comments? Hearing none.
An ordinance amending Chapter 121 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO relating to the St. Charles County Housing Assistance Program. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
That bill passes. Moving on to Bill 4561.
Bill number 4561, an ordinance amending Section 410.290 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, the Unified Development Ordinance, to establish setbacks for new structures in historic sites.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to amend Bill number 4561 and replace it with substitute Bill 4561.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You need to ask for discussion first.
Oh, do we have any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed?
And we still got a roll call.
Motion carries. Okay, on to,
We need to call the roll call.
Do you
I'm
want to
sorry.
call for discussion on the bill, or do you want me to just read the bill?
Read the substitute bill.
Okay.
Yeah, read the substitute bill, please.
An ordinance enacting new section 405.416 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, the Unified Development Ordinance, to provide setback requirements for new buildings in areas with lots platted prior to the inception of the county zoning regulations. Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
That bill passes. Moving on to
4562.
4562.
Bill number 4562, an ordinance amending sections 405.130D, 405.135D, 405.170D, and 405.175D of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, the Unified Development Ordinance, to allow for adjustments and changes in setbacks within the C1 Neighborhood Commercial, C2 General Commercial, I1 Light Industrial, and I2 Heavy Industrial zoning districts.
I'd like to make a motion to amend Bill number 4562 and replace it with substitute Bill 4562.
I have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none.
We have to,
A motion to approve the amended bill?
Motion to approve. Is that what you're asking?
We have a motion to approve.
We just-
All those in favor?
Oh, all those in favor, please.
Aye.
Aye.
That carries. Please read the bill.
An ordinance amending sections 405.125D, 405.130D, 405.135D, 405.170D, and 405.175D of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, the Unified Development Ordinance, to reduce the yard setback requirements to 0 for lots in C commercial districts which adjoin property in C commercial districts, and for lots in I industrial districts which adjoin property in I industrial districts. Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
That bill passes. Moving on to Bill 4563.
Bill number 4563, an ordinance adding a new section 405.055 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, the Unified Development Ordinance, to allow condemnation acquired land applicants to apply to the Planning and Zoning Commission for setback adjustments when affected by right-of-ways.
I'd like to make a motion to withdraw this bill.
Second.
I concur.
We need a concurrence of,
I concur.
I concur.
Okay, that bill has been withdrawn. Moving on to Bill 4564.
Bill number 4564, an ordinance amending section 405.080 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, the Unified Development Ordinance, to authorize certain buildings used as barns or for similar purposes as permissive uses in the A agricultural zoning district to reduce the categories of size limits for accessory structures in the A agricultural zoning districts.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to amend Bill number 4564 and replace it with substitute Bill 4564.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Would you please read the bill?
An ordinance amending section 405.080 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, the Unified Development Ordinance, to authorize certain buildings used as barns or for similar purposes as permissive uses in the A agricultural zoning district to reduce the categories of size limits for accessory structures in the A agricultural zoning districts. Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes. The bill passes. And we are on to 4565?
Yes.
Bill number 4565, an ordinance amending section 405.090E of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, the Unified Development Ordinance, to reduce the categories of size limits for accessory structures in the RR, R1A, R1B, R1C, and R1D and R1E single-family residential zoning districts.
Do we have a substitute bill
No,
for that?
we're
We
already-
don't?
no, not for this
Okay.
one.
Any questions, comments? Please.
An ordinance
Call
amending
roll.
section 405.090E of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, the Unified Development Ordinance, to reduce the categories of size limits for accessory structures in the RR, R1A, R1B, R1C, and R1D and R1E single-family residential zoning districts. Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
That bill passes. Moving on to Bill 4566.
Bill number 4566, an ordinance amending sections 410.110C, 410.160, 410.370B, and 410.390 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO, the Unified Development Ordinance, to exempt from engineering and inspection requirements private streets that are less than a quarter mile in length and consist solely of rock pavement, provided they do not cross any watercourse channel.
Yes, I'd like to propose a substitute bill, number 4560 to 4566, replace it with substitute bill 4566.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Please read the bill.
An ordinance amending sections 410.110C and 410.390 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, the Unified Development Ordinance, and Exhibit A to Chapter 410 to exempt specific types of short private gravel streets from certain requirements for street design and construction. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
That bill passes. Moving on to Bill 4567.
Bill number 4567, an ordinance amending sections 405.330 and 405.340 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, the Unified Development Ordinance, to allow current market value used in the 50% capital improvement rule on floodplain development areas to be determined by a state-licensed real estate appraiser.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to amend Bill number 4567 and replace it with substitute Bill number 4567.
Second.
Hearing a second. All those in favor?
We need discussion.
Oh, do you have any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. The bill passes. Moving
Well,
on.
I
Those
need to read the
accepted.
title for it now. I mean, take the roll for it.
You know, this has been a long day.
I
so
get it,
I'm-
I get it. An ordinance amending sections 405.330 and 405.340 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, the Unified Development Ordinance, to allow current market value used in the 50% capital improvement rule on floodplain development areas to be determined by a state-licensed real estate appraiser. Councilmember Elam.
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond.
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander.
Yes.
Councilmember White.
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel.
Yes.
Okay, that bill passes. Moving on to 4568.
Bill number 4568, an ordinance amending sections 405.60, 405.525G, 410.180, 410.450, and 412.80 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO, the Unified Development Ordinance regarding performance guarantees.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to amend Bill number 4568 and replace it with substitute Bill number 4568.
I need a second.
Second from Mr. White.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Now, please read the bill.
An ordinance amending sections 405.60, 405.525G, 410.180, 410.450, and 412.80 of the ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO, the Unified Development Ordinances regarding performance guarantees. Councilmember Hammond.
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander.
Yes.
Councilmember White.
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel.
Yes.
Councilmember Elam.
Yes.
That bill passes. Moving on to bills for introduction.
Bill number 4569, requested by Michael Hurlbert, sponsored by Dave Hammond, an ordinance authorizing execution of an agreement relating to St. Charles County's Urban County Community Development Block Grant Program, or Urban County CDBG program, for years 2017 through 2019, namely sub-recipient agreement between St. Charles County and the City of St. Peters for conducting city CDBG programs with 2017 federal funding.
Do we have any questions or comments on this bill? Hearing none. Move on to the next bill.
Let's table bills.
We have a table bill 4534. Do we have any action on that? Anybody want?
No.
Hearing none. Announcements, miscellaneous? Anybody have any announcements?
Well, I guess I'd like to thank Dave and Mike Klinghammer for the ad hoc committee and the staff. It was long and painful. It was 6 or 7 months worth of working through stuff, but I think we've made some good changes, and hopefully it'll make it easier or better for constituents and for staff. So what's our plan?
Certainly appreciate those three members' efforts and also the other volunteers that from that came in and gave their expertise. Appreciate it.
It's good to see Councilman Hussey come join us from Wentzville. I hope you understand that we got out before midnight. I know that's unusual for you, so. I don't know what to do for the next. I know. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Let's get out of here.
I'll let everybody know.